Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another Gunpla review, and today I'm taking a look at the high-grade Duel Blitz Gundam from the Gundam Seed movie, Gundam Seed Freedom. As usual, this video right here would not have been possible without this absolutely awesome people over at HG Japan, so if you want one of your own, link is down there in the description. When it comes to the build of these kits, that is the Seed Freedom kits, they've all been absolutely phenomenal so far, and the same goes for this kit right here. This one does feel a little bit classic, however, on top of feeling new, and has something that really surprised me in its build as well. Inside this box there is a whole ton of plastic, as you would expect, because this can be built in two different formats. First off, you can build this as a fairly standard Duel Gundam. According to the lore, this right here was a scrapped GATX-102 Duel Gundam, so it's not the one we would have seen before. But we also have the choice to add on the new Assault Shroud, which gives it a bit of a Blitz flair, but we'll be talking about that a lot later in the accessories. But yeah, the star of the show in here definitely is this runner right here. There's a lot of runners, but this one is the GAT frame, which is the frame at the core of all the original Seed Gundams. And when they say frame, they are not lying. I noticed while building this seemed to have a lot of inner frames, so I decided to kind of progress with that a bit, and kept building just what can be built with inner frame parts. And it kept going, and going, and going, and going, to the point where this pretty much has, I'd almost say like 90% inner frame. And it does look incredibly cool too, and feels nice to boot. So it has everything besides the head and the forearms, otherwise you've got a full frame inside of a high grade. That is absolutely incredible. Even original real grade kits would have struggled to keep up with something like this. Absolutely impressive. Anyway, you just build on the armor then. And when I say build on the armor, that's not the way you actually do it. If you're following the instructions, you'd be building this in the normal kind of way. But what I did was the frame first, and then I started building the armor on, which is a really fun way. Everything is really nicely designed, builds up well, everything feels nice and strong. And finally then, when we get to the head, this does have some nice detail. I will mention we do have a green section inside the head for the eyes and head cameras. You can use this if you want, but you would have to paint the black around the eyes. I just opted for the included stickers, and when it comes to the stickers, the only stickers on the actual main mobile suit itself are the eyes and those head cameras. Otherwise, it all builds up perfectly, simply, and in the end we get a very nice, yet semi-old school feeling high-grade kit. And that brings us directly to right now. I'm just going to mention what I was just talking about, that I said this is semi-old school feeling, because I might forget that thought entirely. And that is, the plastic on this is incredibly shiny in a way that I haven't seen in kits for quite some time. The feet, even though we've got a brand new frame, do not have any kind of articulation whatsoever, which is a little bit on the odd side. Also, there's kind of like a hardness to the plastic as well. The chest section inside of that isn't really all that detailed during the build, but overall it is very nice. It's just, I think it's just the shininess and the general hardness to the plastic. But yeah, jumping right on into that full 360-degree spin, and this is a very nice looking kit. Now, like I mentioned, the plastic on this is a little bit on the brittle side, so I did find there was a lot of kind of knobs happening a lot, which you do get with kind of harder plastics, especially in the blue. Besides that though, it builds up absolutely perfectly. I've done nothing but panel line the head a little bit just to kind of bring out some of the detailing, but besides that, this is what you get right out of box. There's just something about the Duel Gundam that I love, maybe because it's just a mild change from the actual Strike Gundam itself. It feels almost like a brother kit to that particular mobile suit in a way. The Aegis and the Buster are quite different. This one just feels so normal Gundam-y, while at the same time, not that normal Gundam-y, and I dig that. So jumping in a little bit closer now to take a look at the details, and overall it does look really good. Now, there isn't a lot of surface detail really on this kit. When it comes to details like panel lines or anything like that, there isn't really anything. I wasn't really going to panel line this kit because I am trying to get through the backlog. This is a new addition to it, but even after looking at it, there isn't too much. I will also mention there are a couple of wicked seam lines in the front of the legs, again adding to the kind of old school flavor on here. The plastic does look a little old school as well. It's kind of shiny on the blue and white, but the grey is almost in a kind of matte, so that does counteract that in a very nice kind of way. I did find kind of during the build of this, the head did feel a little bit on the simple side, and it kind of does well, it looks a little bit simple too. It's nice, it's cool, it's got one of those head plates like the heavy arms in blue up there. And I think the simplicity just kind of comes from maybe the amount of parts that are in this kit, considering it does have the Assault Shroud included as well. Jumping into a little bit of a size comparison now, and there is it beside two standard Gundams being the Oryx 78-2 and the Oryx 78-2 Beyond Global, so it's about the same size as your standard Gundam. Beside the high-grade Gundam Mark II and the high-grade Zeta Gundam 0088, some more kits from the same movie. There's the high-grade Rising Freedom and Immortal Justice, and the Infinite Justice Type 2 and Galgoog Menace. So jumping into the accessories, and here's everything we get inside the box. For the vast majority of this is all the parts to make that assault shroud with some very Blitz looking like equipment in here as well. Top of that, we do also have a beam rifle and a pair of beam sabers for your kind of standard Gundam style loadout. So first off, a little bit of a note on the hands. All we get is the standard kind of block hands in here. There is nothing like kind of expressive or anything like that. Also, when it does come to compatibility, around on the backpack right here, we do have the standard 2-point adapter. So that does mean you can just grab yourself another kit like this one right here, which will have the exact same little kind of peg format, and then you can just slash that in there to kind of just mix it up. I just wanted to try this backpack because I thought it would work out due to this similarity in the colors, and that does work out incredibly well. Now that is pretty cool, kind of a little bit of a dual freedom combo. Nice. Also, I've always liked the concept of this being a very similar suit to the Strike Gundam, so grabbing something like the Ale Striker pack right here. Now this is the perfect strike pack, but it'll get the same kind of idea across. Should have a pretty cool result. Now let's see, how do I set this up? This is set up for using with a striker kit, so it does have only the one peg right here, but the kits, which are the gunpla option set 1 and 2, do have a little bit of an optional assembly bit. You just pop that out, pop this alternate piece in like so, and then pop it back together. That will then happily fit onto the back of the kit just like so, so you can have yourself a little bit of a Ale Striker packed perfect strike kind of put together from that. So that is nice. This whole thing you can actually just buy sold separately with no Gundam in it. So that's kind of a cool effect, just as it is. And just in case you're curious, everything is fully compatible, so you can pop the big old sword into the hand as well. And that does look killer cool. So jumping through what comes in the actual box, first off we've got a pair of beam sabers. Definitely very normal looking, these guys right here. They pop into the hand the normal kind of way, you just slide them on in like so. Gonna flip around to the other side, whoops, pulled off an arm. Flip around to the other side and try to attach in reverse grip just to test that out. And there it is in a little bit of a quick pose. Now I will mention these do not hold into the hands good at all. They kept falling out the entire time when I was doing this, and it was driving me around the bend, so they could hold on a little bit better. As usual, when they're not used, just pop the beams off, and they can be stored up on these little segments right here, which do move forward and back. But once again, these don't fit on as well as they could, and feels a little bit like a break risk. Actually, I'm not sure if these are kind of like, it's not a full peg, it almost feels like it's intentionally angled, so when the actual little bit is attached on, it does kind of have a bit of a roll to it. Odd. The next weapon we have in here is the beam rifle. Again, simple enough, just 3 pieces. We do have... What? I'm sure I totally put a sticker in... No, I put the sticker on there. There's meant to be a green sticker on that side, but it's gone AWOL for whatever reason. Attaching this into the hand is the usual way. You just pop off the back of the hand like so, stick this in like that, pop the back of the hand back on, and then it's attached. It holds on good too. I will mention it in case you are wondering, this little kind of missile section down here on the bottom, this does not drop down or anything like that, like we would have seen, I think, on the master grade version, or at least another version of some kind of master grade kit that's out there. I know it does that on something, but it doesn't on this. So yeah, even though it's not made out of a lot of parts, or there isn't much color separation per se, the detailing is very nice on the side there, so with a little bit of extra detailing up, this could look really cool. So there is nothing in the manual about storing this somewhere on the unit, so as far as I know, when this is not in use, it's just not held in the hand. So last up in here, we've all the parts that make up the assault shroud, but before I actually lash all of this on, let's test out the articulation here on the Duel. So now jumping into the articulation, this kit right here is a rock solid build. It does feel fantastic. It's quite lightweight, and actually the overall build of just this central aspect without the assault shroud is a lightweight, nice little kit. But yeah, test pose. So that right there is what we get out of the usual test pose, and it is quite nice. There's a lot of nice movement in the legs. Inside of the waist, we've got a dropping little section to bring the leg down so the knee can kick upwards a little bit more. Nice ab crunch, and overall everything works very nicely. The upward movement at the arms at the shoulders probably the most limited, but yeah, let's take a look at everything one piece at a time. First off, we do have a giggity goo, and quite the giggity goo at that. There's the head all the way up and all the way down, so that is double jointed, very nice. Side to side tilt, and the head could spin all the way around. Inside of the shoulder, it is one of those seed joints where it's a ball joint coming out from inside of the chest. Comes out nicely like that, so you can get a little bit of extra up and down. Some of the torso armor kind of gets in the way a bit, and I'm sure you could modify that by cutting a little bit away if you did actually want more movement out of it. Also, I forgot to mention nubs earlier on. The nubs on the blue, or at least didn't show them very well. They're pretty bad, especially up there on the upper body. At the shoulder, then, I do find the most limited aspect is trying to get the arm up at this point. That's about as far as it does go. Of course, we do have the full rotation there if you do want a little bit more out of it. This little section can move on its own, and the whole shoulder armor can move independently to the arm, but the blockage is not actually to do with the shoulder armor, it's more so this joint right here itself. By bringing it out, you can kind of get it up a little bit more, but that's it. Next up, we do have full rotation at the upper arm. The bend at the elbow is a nice double jointed bend. It kind of clashes with the shoulder a little bit. There is a little bit more in it, but the shoulder does get mildly in the way. Average old ball joint at the wrist. But I did notice that if you kind of move it around a lot, it can kind of pop out into this almost hanging there but not really attached kind of way. It's strange. The ab crunch in here is very nice and extremely smooth. Now this little aspect of it right here is a bit of a C-clip inside, so I'm not sure if that'll hold up or not. It feels good so far, so no complaints there. There is the side to side, very nice. The rotation there is from that point to that point. Ball joint side skirts, there's a little bit of up and down, but they do tend to kind of just come off a little bit. When they're just there, they're not a problem, but the minute you start moving them, kind of like the wrist, they go a little bit funny. Just like we've seen in some kits in this line, we do have a dropping mechanism in the hip, which is very nice for the kicks. Speaking of which, there is the kick all the way up the front, very nice. No skirting armor, so it's nice out to the back too. And then when it does come to the splits, we get the full splits. Full spin at the upper leg. There is that 2-point bend at the knee, so quite nice. The ankle in here is very nicely designed. So it's moving further up inside the leg than we normally see. And inside of that then we do have a nice 2-point turn at the ankle, which is great. Sadly, we don't actually have anything at the foot like a toe bend up or down, but overall still extremely nice. In general, posing feels quite fluid and it is nice overall. But yeah, now it's about time to check out the assault shroud. Now I did actually whip out some aspects of this strike right here a little while ago to try out the Ale Striker on this, but what I didn't think about was the fact that we do have racks up on the shoulder of this Gundam as well. They do not look even remotely the same, so I doubt they're going to work, but it doesn't really hurt to try. So let's see. Yeah, those pegs are definitely too large for the holes. If you could modify them, I assume you probably could. The distance may not be exactly the same, but it seems like the shape could kind of fit if you did just modify the size. Anyway, with a bit of modification, maybe. So getting the assault shroud attached onto the Duel Gundam is super simple. First off, you need to remove the beam sabers from up on the shoulders. The chest section just slides on over the chest. The front skirting armor segment pops on, and I did have a little bit of trauma here because I remember the master grade and how bad it was on that kit. It's not bad on this one, thankfully. Around back, we've got a butt skirt which just attaches on, super simple. This back section that attaches in the middle of the backpack, really giving it a lot of nice bulk. A top part that pops on top of that, giving that typical Duel Gundam length. And then we've got some front shin armor which pops onto the front of the leg, and then the side section which attaches into the leg, holding on both the front part of the armor and the side section. That is the same for both sides, just mirrored. One interesting aspect about this, and probably the only part that needs to be swapped out, is the blue wrist armor does have to be removed and then replaced with this black one right here. I think this is to match with the weapons, and that's really the only reason, because otherwise the blue would still match somewhat with this armor. Up on the shoulder then we've got some shoulder armor sections which attach into the rack rails up on the shoulders. These two huge shoulder weapon units that slot then down over that, again holding on absolutely perfectly. Last up then you just attach the lancer darts onto the back of the right arm and the Gleipnir onto the back of the left arm. Then you're done. Super simple. So once the Blitz style assault shroud is on, this is what it looks like in that full 360-degree spin. This looks awesome. The colors on here are absolutely perfect. This is the Duel Gundam with its assault shroud in all of that orange on light blue glory. We have a lot of cool Blitz aspects on here as well, and overall I am so impressed by how this has turned out. One, it fits on perfectly, nothing is loose like we would have seen before in the master grade, and just two, the kind of color scheme is so unique, so nice, so soft. This just looks absolutely incredible. So there's a lot of nice detailed aspects on this. The colors are just absolutely incredible, but I will mention there are a couple of stickers on the assault shroud itself. They're not really the worst. These ones right here, these are stickers, so that's probably the worst offender of them all. And we do have some in here as well, the black sections, otherwise they would just be in the same light blue as the armor itself. But overall, for the most part, it isn't too bad at all. When it comes to what this can do, it's quite impressive as well. Up on each shoulder, we do have a nice little bit of equipment. The first one here is a beam saber. This is the exact same beam saber we would have seen before, so I'm not gonna use this again and pop the beams in, but I'm always curious whether it can reach or not, considering how it is attached on. It's not going to be reached by that arm. Possibly by this one. Definitely having a little bit of trouble, but oh. Yep, it can grab it. Behind that one on the same shoulder, we do have this as well. Now, this is a little bit of a disappointment. So what we have here is a couple of little kind of missiles or grenades. This whole section here is meant to be in a different color. It is all cast in the light blue here. But as you can see in the instructions, the inner section of this is meant to be in a kind of dark gray or black, and the little missile sections themselves are meant to be in orange. Again, it is a tucked away detail, so it's not the biggest offender, but it is worth mentioning. Moving now to the other side, and as you can see, this is a completely different color. This is a weapon right here. You can see there is definitely a visible seam going the whole way up it. It flips out just like so, and as you can see, it is a little bit of a shoulder cannon. We have a little bit of a drop out handle right here, quite stiff, so it can be held in the hand and it can be taken out and, well, fully held in the hand just like that right there, but I'm not going to do it. A simple weapon, and this kind of navy blue plastic does kind of knob up quite a bit, so be very careful with that one right there when cleaning it up. Next up in here, and a very Blitz style weapon, we do have the Lancer darts. These can be removed if you want to have them firing off. There's no way to really attach them to a stand or anything like that, but you can have them removed to make them look like they were shot. They just pop back in just like so. And I will mention, just because I'm noticing it right now, this shoulder armor is absolutely massive. So when you're actually trying to pose it around with the assault shroud on, this all gets in the way all of the time. You can no longer move this blue armor section here, so the arms don't really raise up. So it is incredibly limited with this bulky armor on. Again, in very Blitz style, on the other arm we have the Piercer Rock Gleipnir. Again, posing this kit with this attached is most definitely a little bit on the cumbersome side because of all of the bulk. Also, I will mention the wings on this. These are meant to be orange on the kind of recessed little areas right here. There is stickers included, but I didn't use them because there's such an awkward placement. This can open up with 2 points of articulation at each of these little bits, like so, again in a very kind of Blitz style way. And thankfully this is a kit that does include a stand for using with this. It's a simple little stand, but it does the job perfectly. So you can just pop that weapon onto the end just like so. And we do have a little wire because this is a wire attached armament. The wire attaches into the underside on one side. The other bit of the yellow wire attaches then into the arm section, and this is what it looks like attached. The wire is weak, it's not going to hold it up, of course, on its own, but you do have a stand in here. The posing potential of the actual Duel Blitz with the assault shroud on is very low, so overall it is a little bit on the awkward side, but you might get something out of it that does look nice. Anyway, that's what it's like up on the stand in a bit of a pose. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and this right here is a gold tier kit just falling short of platinum by a little bit. If just a little bit more was done, it would have went all the way. When it comes to the aesthetics, this is a very beautiful kit, but it's a little bit old school in its simplicity. There isn't much in the lines of detail, and I do feel that the aesthetic nature of it has been spread across the fact that this can be built in 2 different forms, which is awesome, but neither feel quite perfect. It also marks up quite a bit because of the kind of shiny, hard plastic. When it comes to the accessories in here, this is really where this kit shines. The ability to build it in 2 different forms, the standard Duel Gundam or the brand new Duel Blitz Gundam with the Assault Shroud on. Both is cool, but like I mentioned before, it feels like they kind of took whatever awesome points were put into this particular kit and averaged it across everything, so nothing quite shines. The regular equipment is quite basic, and even though the Assault Shroud is very nice and attaches on very well, it does have some downfalls when it comes to color, and it does definitely block the kit from really moving around. Finally then, when it does come to the articulation and build on this does have an almost full inner frame, which is amazing. However, what builds onto it isn't the most impressive around. Articulation wise, without the armor, it gets some great poses in, very nice, but it's a little bit limited at the shoulders, and once you do actually throw on the Assault Shroud, this doesn't really move too much, especially in the upper body. Overall though, still an absolutely gorgeous kit, feels nice, and even though I only gave it gold tier, I still absolutely love this to bits. It looks great, the color's great, the options are awesome, but there's just something about it that just feels a little off. Anyways, always, if you do want one of your own, link is in the description. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, I can't finish this video without special thanks to those who support the channel on the memberships as well as over on Patreon, including Abraxas, Caleb Engelhardt, Joe, Orgy59061, Shadow Wolf 179, 10 Soldier YT, and Van Fawn.